Welcome once again to Musings by Danon. For a while now, I've been debating how to approach the topic of good adaptations versus bad ones. Obviously, I'm using this topic as an excuse to talk about I'm the evil lord of an intergalactic empire, but I wanted a bad example for comparison purposes. I know that we can all agree that there are anime that are bad adaptations of the source material, be it manga or light novels. The one that keeps coming to mind for me is not an anime. It's a live-action series that absolutely should have been an anime, called Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time is my all-time favorite series. The series is simply phenomenal. Epic doesn't even begin to describe this series. There are multiple times when you're reading through the Wheel of Time that your hands begin to shake because of what's happening on the page. Not just from anxiety, but from how much further beyond the Wheel of Time takes everything. I'll give you a small example for those of you that have never read the series. The Wheel of Time is a giant spinning wheel that is turned by the one power and spins out the weave that is both time and space. Each person in the weave is a single thread. Sometimes threads fall from the pattern but are picked up again in the future. In other words, reincarnation. In the series, there is a spell known as Balefire. Balefire burns whatever it hits out of the pattern, and the stronger the balefire is, the more power that's put into the spell, the further back the burning goes. This means that things done by the person or creature hit with balefire are undone, because the balefire removed them from the pattern prior to them having done the thing. Characters have come back to life because the thing that killed them was destroyed with balefire. Does this cause a ripple in the literal fabric of the universe? Absolutely, but that's a story for a different time. Volume 1 of The Wheel of Time is a classic hero's journey. A wizard comes to a backcountry town and winds up taking 5 unwilling youths with her on a journey to stop the Dark One's plans from coming to fruition. It is very Lord of the Rings-esque, and we even get an uncrowned king as the companion to the wizard. Is Lan and Aragorn stand-in? A little bit, yes, but that's the main theme of Wheel of Time. These are all stories we've heard before, woven together. Just like how Tolkien took stories from all over England as well as Beowulf and other European influences, Robert Jordan took influences from all over the world. Sumerian, Middle Eastern, Taoist, Buddhism, even Christianity. The Wheel of Time is a melting pot of legends and myths, which is why I was so sad when the first season dropped. While I was a fan of the casting, the massive changes they made in the first episode terrified me. Perrin has a wife and they fridge her? Matt isn't a prankster rogue type but a thief and scoundrel? Nynaeve doesn't have a block and can already channel a little bit? All of these pissed me off, but the biggest sin was Lan's swordsmanship being garbage. I've seen better choreography on YouTube. Season 1 had exactly one good scene, and the fans agree with me. The trailer for Season 1 of Wheel of Time has 10 million views on YouTube, while this scene has 20 million. Those of you who have watched the show know exactly what I'm talking about. The fight on the slopes of Dragonmount, when Tigraine gives birth to the Dragon Reborn while fighting for her life against the Ilia and her companions. This scene is cinematic excellence. Top-tier fight scene, all the tension in the world, simply wonderful. Which is a startling contrast to the rest of the series. Now, I don't need Wheel of Time to be a one-to-one adaptation. I know that books to movies or manga to anime cannot and should not be a one-to-one ratio. But Danon, what's a good example of a change that was done from a book to a movie that you approved of? Good question, dear viewer. How about Gimli getting 3 hairs from Galadriel? For those who don't remember, in The Lord of the Rings, when the party is in mourning after Gandalf fell into fire and darkness at the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, the party rested for a while in Lothlorien. Gimli was apprehensive, to say the least, to stay in the woods, ruled over by an ancient and powerful creature like Galadriel. But Aragorn wasn't concerned. After all, Galadriel was his future in-law. Remember, Arwen's mother was Galadriel's daughter. Anyway, the dwarf comes around and becomes enraptured by Galadriel, as did the rest of the party. As the party left, everyone was given a gift by the Lady of Lothlorien, but when she came to Gimli, her hands were empty. After all, she had no idea what gift to bestow upon a dwarf. Gimli simply asked for a single strand of her hair, and she gave him 3. As a Tolkien nerd, I need to geek out about this. For those who don't know, I read the Silmarillion before I read The Lord of the Rings. In the early days of the world, when the gods walked the land and broke bread with the young elves, there lived a craftsman named Fëanor. Fëanor was a selfish and vain elf who was the cause of a lot of problems that we won't go into here. But he coveted Galadriel. He lusted after her and asked for but a single strand of her hair. Galadriel has always been able to read the hearts of men, and thrice she refused him. And along comes this dwarf who's asking the same thing. But Gimli's love for her is pure. He's not coveting her to possess her. He knows that in the dark days to come, simply thinking of her will lighten his heart and ease his burdens. So, to honor this dwarf, Galadriel gives him not 1 hair, but 3. In the book, she breaks out scissors and does it on the spot, but that doesn't work for film. In the film, Gimli just explains what happens in a quiet conversation with Legolas while they ride down the Nimrodel. This is a simple change. It is obviously not a 1-to-1 ratio, and that's fine. Fans of both the book and the movies understood why this change needed to be made. You can't exactly show someone cutting off 3 strands of hair from their head and not make it look ridiculous. You would lose all the gravitas of the situation. Which brings me to the subject of today's video. I'm the Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire is the best light novel adaptation I've seen in a long time. Maybe ever. The reason I say this is because of all the canon-adjacent additions the series added. As I stated earlier, we don't need one-for-one adaptations when it comes to books getting turned into anime. But when you go and make changes to the source material, it better make sense, which is what they did with this series. For example, in the book, we barely see the guide. He's there in the beginning and towards the end of the book, but in the book, there aren't any scenes of him tormenting people's caramel whipped drinks, or the awful feeling of breaking apart chopsticks incorrectly. But the biggest change in the series was the introduction of Christina so early on, rather than getting to her backstory after Liam rescues her like in the novel. First of all, unlike a lot of other anime adapted from light novels, Evil Lord only adapts the first volume, which means the climax of Volume 1 is the climax of the anime. This means that 2 things need to be built up: Liam's loneliness and the villainy of Goaz. In the book, we don't discover how evil Goaz is until after Christina is rescued. Remember, Liam's already killed the pirate and is wandering around his ship when he discovers the Cronenbergian laboratory. There's not as much emotional impact in the book. We don't see Goaz as a true villain, but in the anime, we see Christina getting captured, her home planet annihilated, and her knights turned into hideous monsters before our eyes. As much as Liam tries to be a villain, it is clear that Goaz is a far bigger monster than he'll ever be. But then we get to the true villains of Season 1, Liam's family. When Liam arrives on the capital planet to receive his award for defeating the menace that was Goaz, his family arranges a meeting with him. Mind you, these are the same scumbags who abandoned him when he was 5 and left him in charge of their debt-ridden territory. What do they want? More money, of course. But Liam isn't the same as he was in his past life. He's grown. He refuses them and even threatens them should they come near him again. Their scheme to ride on his coattails is even nipped in the bud by the Prime Minister, who notes how their back taxes are actually getting paid by Liam. So why should he do anything to help them? Then Liam breaks down and cries when Amagi tries to leave him. If the scene with his family didn't hit like a truck, this one will. His entire past life is about loss. Everyone he loved, everyone he trusted, lied to him and abandoned him. If any anime character has abandonment issues, it is Liam. Changes from the source material are fine and in many cases necessary. What works on paper doesn't necessarily work on film or animation. But adding some scenes or stretching out what was on the manga page into something delightful and memorable is something you can only do in animation. I'll give you an example. Since we have a new season coming out, it has been on my mind. In Spy Family Episode 4, Anya asks for a party at the castle as a celebration for getting into Eden Academy. In the manga, this scene is 4 pages. No, I'm not exaggerating. I'll show you. See? Remember, this entire sequence took up most of Episode 4. This is what a good adaptation looks like. And I'm the Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire is another example of a good adaptation. The source material is not followed scene for scene, line for line, but it doesn't need to be. So long as it captures or even adds to the initial story rather than cutting away or making massive changes. None of the changes made in this anime went against the grain. Rather, they enhanced the experience and improved the story overall. At least in my opinion. What's your favorite adaptation? Or an adaptation that you thought was awful? Leave a comment below. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Daden. There are several tiers to choose from. You can pick an anime or manga for me to do a video about, or you can join our monthly manga club. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons. Waffles, Drya, Muffins, Marcus, Brett, Roxy, Alix, Borgie, Naswin, Conga, Robert Pye, Kazaris, Patrick, Tiz, Art, Richard, Sint, Boomy, Osira, Justin, Golden Walker, Captain Hammer, Yori, and Sleech. You guys are awesome. I post anime or manga videos often, or you can click here to watch additional videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Danon.